This tradition also talks about, as individuals, we can, if we wish, open halfway houses, clubhouses where AA meetings can be held, but as a group, we should never take on these endeavors or attach the AA name to them. Okay, the question that I ask myself is, how can I support this tradition? And there are more subtle ways that this tradition can be violated. I had an experience a couple of years ago where I was one more time the GSR of my home group and participating at the level of the district committee meeting. One of the groups came to the district and he was requesting that AA funds be used to, he was from a small town, and a neighboring small town had a telephone book in which he wanted to put a listing for our local intergroup number, which would have been fine, our AA intergroup number, but he also wanted to pay for the listing of a local treatment center. I sadly was the only one who voted against it. Tradition 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. This tradition talks about that we are all extremists, or that we are all or nothing people, extremists, especially in our relationship to money. That we're willing to spend lavishly on 12-step cases, yet reluctant when it comes to putting a buck in the basket. And there is a great story in this tradition, if you've not read it, about Bill Wilson, where he was working at the GSO office, and the favorite slipper guy who was struggling to stay sober came in and gave him a hound dog look, and he, remembered those days and gave this struggling member 1/6 of his week's pay, which was he gave him $5, and his weekly pay at that point was $30. So it was a substantial amount of money, considering his wife was struggling to pay for the groceries. So he felt pretty good about giving him this money, and then he went to his local group that night, and the treasurer spoke up and, reminded them that they were struggling to meet their finances, and Bill was sitting next to another prospect that he was working on and feeling pretty puffed up about that, and as the basket was going around, he fished into his pocket and he felt a big coin, and then fished out a smaller coin and put that in the basket.
So ఇదేంటంటే అండి, సెల్ఫ్ సపోర్టింగ్ యొక్క ట్రెడిషన్ కదా. మనం ఇద్దరు రెండు రకాలుగా ఉంటాం, విపరీతాలు అనమాట. ఆల్కహాలిక్ అంటే ఒక వైపు బాగా పిసినారితనంగా ఉంటాం, అసలు రూపాయి పెట్టం దేనికి. ఇంకో వైపు ఏంటంటే
పెట్టం దేనికంటే ముఖ్యంగా కిట్టీలు చెప్పింది,
అండ్ లేకపోతే శుభ్రంగా ఎక్కువగా ఖర్చు పెట్టేస్తాం.
వేరే వాటి మీద ఖర్చు పెట్టమంటే బ్రహ్మాండం, చాలా దర్జాగా ఖర్చు పెడతాం.
అది సో ఇక్కడ బిల్లు గురించి ఒక స్టోరీ చెప్పింది. ఇది ఈ ట్రెడిషన్కి సంబంధించిన స్టోరీ. ఎప్పుడు వ్యక్తి రిలాప్స్ అవుతూ ఉండేవాడు. ఆ వ్యక్తి ఒక బలమైన ఇచ్చినప్పుడు బిల్ విల్సన్ ఆ రోజుల్లో $5 ఇచ్చేసాడు. వారానికి $30 సంపాదించాడు. అంటే $5 ఇచ్చాడు, మరి వారంలో 1/6 అంటే 1/6 వంతు ఇచ్చేసినట్టే. 6 వంతు ఇచ్చేసినట్టే. సో అప్పుడు మళ్ళీ దాని తర్వాత ఇచ్చేసి భలే ఇచ్చారా, బాగా ఇచ్చా ఇడికి అనుకుంటూ మనలాగే మీటింగ్కి వెళ్ళాడు. మీటింగ్కి వెళ్ళాక మీటింగ్లో ఎవరో కమర్తో మాట్లాడుతూ కూర్చున్నాడు. ఈ ఆలోచన ఇంకా జరుగుతుంది, బాగా ఇచ్చాను అడిగి, పోన్లే మనం సాయం చేసాం అని. కిట్టి వచ్చినప్పుడు మటుకు పాకెట్లో చేయబెట్టాడు. పాకెట్లో చేయబెడితే పెద్ద కాయిన్ దొరికింది. పెద్ద కాయిన్ అంటే పెద్ద కరెన్సీ. అబ్బాయి ఈ పెద్ద కాయిన్ కాదు అని చిన్న కాయిన్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళి చిన్న కాయిన్ వేసాడు. అది సో పెట్టాల్సిన చోట పెద్ద మనసుతో పెట్టకపోవటం, పెట్టకూడని చోట పెద్ద మనసుతో పెట్టడం మన కన్ఫ్యూషన్.
ముఖ్యంగా అప్పుడు పాపం బిల్లు భార్య తిండి ఎక్కడి నుంచి తేవాలో, దానికి డబ్బులు ఎక్కడి నుంచి తేవాలో కూడా తెలియని ఒకటి. 2 గ్రూపు ఆర్థిక ఇబ్బందుల్లో ఉంది. అక్కడ డబ్బులు లేవు, ఇక్కడ డబ్బులు లేవు. అయినా ఈయన గారు ఏం చేశారు, అంటే అది కూడా ఒక విధంగా చెప్పాలంటే మరి ఆయన పెద్ద ఆయన అనొచ్చు అనకూడదు, కానీ అదొక రకమైన గ్రాండియోసిటీ.
As members, as individual AA members, we support the group financially to help provide meeting spaces and all the other services that are necessary for the group to provide an atmosphere for 12-step work to be done. And then the groups financially support the other service entities. We have a district, an area, an intergroup, and a GSO. So I ask myself, am I supporting my group financially and with my service? Am I giving back or am I still taking? It's interesting to watch members at my home group who, when a lot of us when we get here, some of us when we get here, don't have a lot of financial resources. Yet, they'll come to the meeting drinking a Starbucks and smoking cigarettes and have nothing to put in the basket. Tradition 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. This is one of those situations that sometimes appear to be a contradiction in AA, but freely ye have received, freely give is the essence of this tradition, and where our 12-step work is concerned, it is never to be paid for. Sometimes we have situations where we bring in members of Alcoholics Anonymous to come put on a workshop for us, and they may be traveling a distance. And in the spirit of being self-supporting, the group will provide for their transportation or their necessities while they're here, but we never pay them to put on the presentation.
Good.
There's also the situation, for example, where the area that I live in, we have an intergroup office. And to expect someone to manage that office on a volunteer basis, one individual, would be too much to ask. So in a place where we would maybe have to hire a non-alcoholic, we've hired an AA member to serve as the office manager, and we pay her hopefully fair market value. So I ask myself, do I understand the difference in what is to be paid for, what services are to be paid for, what's not to be paid for? And in our case, the office manager is being paid to help make 12-step work possible. She's not being paid for 12-step work. And I've been given the word that we're going to wrap up at... Yes, we're going to take a break right now.
Right now?
Yep, yes.
You're done with the tradition?
We're done for now, and I think maybe we're going to pick it up after the break.
Sure, no
Okay.
issue. But again,
We need to come back.
1 hour?
1 hour. Okay.
2:30?
2:30.
Okay. Prayer.
Let's wait for the prayer. దయచేసి నుంచోండి. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.